We're good to go.
Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody had a good holiday season and stuff. We'll call this meeting to order at 2:04 p.m. And we will get started with roll call. Chris.
Have you talked?
Yeah, Chris contacted us today, and unfortunately he is resigning from the Arts Commission.
Okay.
He is invested in the Garland Theater, and it's changed his schedule significantly. So I have offered that if there's something we could do to make this meeting more accommodating to him, to let us know, but I haven't heard back.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. All right, Matthew Stevens, I am here. Lynn.
I'm here.
Tina.
I'm here.
Lisa.
I'm here.
And Michaela.
Here.
All right. And now we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag.
We do have a flag in the room here. It doesn't really help Zoom.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's behind us.
We're just gonna go.
All right. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh,
Okay, on to approval of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to kind of look it over? And if so, do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll do a motion to approve it.
All right.
I'll
Do I hear
second
a
it.
second? All
I'll
right.
second it.
Okay, and all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
I
Okay, and approval of the minutes. And has everybody had a chance to give those a quick read through and such? And do I hear a motion to approve those?
So are these actually for November?
November
Yes,
13th.
yes.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Okay.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes from the November meeting? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And on to public comment. Do we have any public comments from anybody?
We have not received any, and we have nobody in the room at this time or in Zoom.
Okay. Sounds good. Doesn't look like there's any presentations or public hearings or action items. So on to workshops. The Downtown Revitalization Funds Programming, continuing that conversation.
Oh, great. So as you know, we received some funds from a company called Waste Management, which is for the franchise to provide garbage service in Airway Heights. And as part of that existing contract, there are funds that the Waste Management gives to the city for downtown revitalization. Those dollars were used as the funding for the cabinet wrap for the control box for the light at Lawson Street. There is still about $13,500 in that fund available for the Arts Commission. And one of the things that we hope to do in 2024 was to walk through an opportunity for the commission to talk about some ideas about how to use those art funds. And while we didn't have a quorum at the meeting in December, several members had recommended to proceed with the mural concept.
Okay.
And so we did a little drive-by, if you will, using Google, and looked at some buildings within that area that's defined essentially from Lawson to Lundstrom to King Street, and took a look at potentially some buildings that would be viable essentially for a mural. So it was just one idea. And so the goal moving forward is to continue to think about some other opportunities to invest those dollars in the downtown area. And I believe that about 4 months ago, Zach went through a process of looking at several of the individual sub-area plans that provide specific guidance about how art may be potentially utilized in the community. Some ideas could be drawn from that. We could also go through kind of an exercise of some other ideas. We also talked a little about some of the opportunities with projects occurring in the downtown, which included that we're in the process of doing design for both ends of the downtown, which is on the graphic, which would be the intersections of Lawson and Lindstrom. And what we're in the process of designing, and we'll be having an open house on January 29th for this, which is that we have roundabouts at both locations, as well as a pedestrian crossing at King Street. So kind of thinking in the future about, is there some idea about using some of those dollars to think about art in the roundabouts and that location in the future? And correct me, for those that were here last month, was about as far as we got for ideas, was the roundabout murals? Okay. So with that, that's just kind of a summary of where we've gone as a group, and see if there's some additional ideas or information that the group would like to have, or if you want to kind of move on to a selected project, we can talk about some of the next steps of what that would take. But again, the Arts Commission, certainly can invest in these dollars in a variety of ways under the arts plan, which is a policy document. So it doesn't have to be strictly physical. It could certainly be investment. So, like performances. We had talked last year, I think, about the idea of an art market. So, a lot of different opportunities that could be there for investing in the downtown and to help establish it as, a place, a central place of downtown for Airway Heights.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, I love the concept arts and stuff with all the trees and stuff in there. It really gives a good look at what it could look like.
Yeah, it's just in the concept stages, but I think it's going to be very similar to that, which is a lot of space in there with opportunity for a community space along the roadway. So again, 30% design will be in an open house format, probably over at our new offices at 1149 South Garfield here at the end of the month, and an opportunity for feedback.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about the open house? Because I was looking on the website, I don't really see any info.
That's,
so maybe
that's because it hasn't been posted, Lisa, because it hasn't been finalized. We just talked about it on Friday with our consulting team.
Oh, okay. All right. That would explain it.
Nope, that's okay. You guys are, you're
that was
the first
something
to know.
I missed.
No.
Okay. From our last meeting. We also had talked about pop-up designs and activations and murals. And so I was doing a little research on that as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to further that. It was pretty fun to listen to your take and input and also feedback on your experience with the projects that you did at the park. And I thought, there's some really good opportunities even with this area and getting some more interest generated in the buildings and the communities. I think we could definitely come up with some temporary pop-up spaces that would encourage that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've talked also about like benches and that sort of thing, incorporating those and I think that would enhance the community type feel, I think, in the downtown area. But yeah.
We had also talked about murals, and I was looking, and you can actually get murals printed, but just like you do the wrap on the utility box. We wouldn't necessarily have to, have although getting the community involved is also a sweet part of it as well. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but I like the mural idea that Michaela was talking about the last time we got together and had our little workshop, our impromptu workshop. I thought some good ideas came out of that.
Yeah, I definitely, I love the mural idea because it's something we could basically, if we decided on it, we could have an artist ready in spring when the weather's, correct. I think we should have it, painted and not like a wrap. There's just something about seeing and watching the mural come together when you drive by and watch an artist, like when they did the ones under the bridges in Spokane, I would walk by or drive by and you get to watch the progress. And that feels really good, right? Because we're watching this piece of art being created and like, oh, what's it going to look like in the end? And it kind of gives a bigger involvement, I think. And, you know, there's just something really cool about artists who do paint or, you know, graffiti murals like that. There's just something really fantastic about watching them do that.
Yeah, I think watching the process tells the story kind of as well. So I definitely agree with the painted mural rather than printed and applied. I definitely would favor that one. Were there any buildings that stood out kind of during the conversation that would possibly be viable or?
Yeah, and everybody here can remember, but one of them was the what's it called? Car wash, sorry, that was over on the south side, because there is a blank wall that faces the parking lot. And the other one was an auto repair on the north side, and I think an insurance company. We can take a Google Drive again, to take a look at the facades. But I think that would be a critical element here, is maybe not focusing in on just one property, because you have to have a willing property owner in order to do it. Is maybe select several, and then as part of the process, we can reach out to those businesses and see who's actually willing to commit to it. If you get multiple, that's great. But at least you have a starting point when you're talking with an artist, because then you have the space that they might be designing to, and then, you know, the location, and they can see what the visibility is, etc. Does that make sense?
So the first one is probably this right here. I'm
Yes,
assuming.
yeah, that facade's there.
Okay.
That's pretty visible. And of course, the one next to it's not too bad. And then across the street, there was Billy's. I forgot about that. Billy's had come up as an opportunity, potentially. And then couldn't you go the other direction looking east? Yeah. Some of these might be a little harder because, you know, you're focusing on both east and west directional traffic. I don't know, what about the subway? Did that come up last time too? Oh, there's the International Beauty School. That's pretty visible.
So this is kind of our end here. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Solitai already has their outdoor patio, which is kind of a cool space in itself, and it'd be cool if it did it change ownership or something.
The owner passed away from COVID,
okay. That's what it was.
but his family continues to operate it.
Okay. Yeah, I could tell something was different. That's too bad.
They cut back their hours, and then they've kind of substantially expanded their takeout opportunity. If you've been in there, it's really cool. So the one whole half of it's now like seating areas, a couple different seating areas for people who come in, you know, waiting for orders.
This is the other building you were talking about.
The Farmers, yeah, I think Farmers was the other one that came up. Yep, and there it is. There's the auto place right there with the red car.
Okay.
Although it's not a metal building. Is it metal?
Yeah.
It's a pole building, yeah.
Yeah, they can do murals on metal.
So it seems like next steps would be to reach out to the owners, see who's interested, and obviously go from there. But it would be really cool if a couple of them liked it, because we could do more than one mural. Like, I mean, imagine driving that area, see, you know, a couple of different murals. You're just like, it's going to instantly elevate, I think, the visual experience of driving through that area.
Absolutely. last time I worked on a mural, we used to do that when I worked for the city of Spokane, we used to do the murals with our community cleanup days. So the one on Monroe and the one on East Central, we paid for through Spokane Arts. And my recollection was at the time, they were running a little over $3,000 in materials. And I think that the stipend for the artist was pretty nominal. So we probably should check with Spokane Arts to see what some of the current rates are, unless
Yep.
someone here maybe knows what the rates per mural are. Go by the one, if you get a chance, that's on Monroe and it's toward the north end. And we also did one, I'm sorry, on Sprague and East Central. So it was this little sewing machine icon. They would be comparable in size of what we'd be talking about on the sides of these buildings. They're not, by any means small murals.
Where's the one on Monroe?
It is 2 blocks south of the chalk paint store.
I'm sorry. It's not a landmark. I have mentally. I'm sorry.
Let me look real quick.
I was gonna pull it up, but don't know where on Monroe. Is it like south of Garland, kind of down the bottom of the hill, or?
Oh yeah, it's at the bottom of the hill. It's at least 4 blocks south of the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
On the east side.
All right, let's. Apps are slowing down on this computer.
It looks like most of the murals that have been done recently by Spokane Arts are all along the viaduct in the downtown area.
Hmm.
There's just quite a few, images of that. Let's see if I can. One of the things that's been super interesting about murals is, they deter graffiti, but Airway Heights has been graced with very little of that compared to other communities. Yeah, all the murals that's on Spokane Arts page are all the viaduct ones. Let's see if I can find it for.
Oh, I didn't think there's that Fisherman's Landing apartments right over by SFCC. They just did a big mural on their wall facing the street. It's really nice. I was looking for an example. That's okay. We don't need it.
Um, so this is not one. Let's see. Here was this. Yeah, I think I have to go back and look, but there's another one on Monroe. And it is 100 by 30 feet. Artist Tiffany Patterson did it with Mick Burson. And it's adjacent to the Mexican restaurant called Geraldo's at 2706 North Monroe. So it's not the one that our group did, but it's another one that's on Monroe.
Oh, well, okay. I think that's. We'll see if I can find it real quick.
The 2706 North Monroe. That's down in Garland here with you for north. There you go. You're below the hill.
And let's
There you go.
go right there, I think.
Further north than that. All right, keep going north. Right there, so it's right north of it, the building right north of Geraldo's.
There
There you go.
Sorry, we got a little lag on the mouse there, so
There you
there we
go.
go.
Yeah.
All right. An example. Yay. Did Spokane Arts do that?
Spokane Arts help with it, probably with the artist solicitation.
You said that one's 100 feet by 30?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So we can get some estimates of what they've been costing from Spokane Arts. But just kind of walking through steps, we can go out and communicate with each of those property owners, see if they're interested. One of the things that I probably would say, we would probably want some kind of agreement with the property owners to keep the mural for a period of time so that,
Yeah.
you know, it's not removed after an investment like that.
Yeah.
You know, agreements like that can vary from a couple of years, you know, 5 years, it just depends. And then once we get the idea of the cost that Spokane Arts has been paying recently for the artists and then the materials costs, that can help us build a budget around this, because, you know, if it's $3,000 each or it's $5,000 each, that's going to kind of have frame like, you know, how many potentially if you have more than one property owner that's willing to participate.
Yeah.
And then as far as solicitation, you know, we can begin that solicitation before this, you know, before spring or before weather allows for painting, you know, so you can work through the process of looking at proposals, you know, selecting proposal and, you know, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
Finer details, you know, certainly could be an agreement to keep the mural like a facade easement kind of situation, and then probably waivers of liability for the property owner, from the property owner while, you know, somebody's working on site, and
Yeah.
we'll work through those issues with our legal counsel. And then really the fun elements, the, you know, the not the weeds detail are, you know, do you want to pick a theme? You know, is there some focus that you'd like for these murals to be included in the concept? You know, do you want to leave it a little bit open-ended like you know, by the cabinet controller box? You know, you talked about kind of the history of the region and asked them to think about that and reflect it. Do you want to have it as a limited area to have a call from artists? Do you want to have it, you know, much more broad than just the geographic area defined in the last call for artists? You know, kind of some details there that we can talk through for this project.
Yeah, absolutely. With this being a bigger visual representation, I do want to keep it as local as possible, I think, just because it's right here. So I definitely lean towards that aspect, but I'd love to hear everybody else's opinions and such too. So
I love that. I love local artists. However, muralist is a little bit more specialized. And I think if we don't open it up to Spokane Valley, Deer Park, like the larger area, we won't get enough good options. So I think local
Yeah.
Spokane area, like we don't want out of state or, people who aren't from this region, but I think it would benefit all of us if we opened it a little more than the last call. Just because with the call, there were more, it was a little bit more open. It was a little less specialized, this is, somebody has to know the medium in order to do this correctly. So.
Right. Absolutely. And also, one thing I wanted to ask, can we put something in the language that deters people from submitting AI generated images? Okay.
I agree. I think we need to discount, like absolutely disqualify no AI, because that takes away the whole point. And a good is going to actually be able to paint this. They're going to be able to draw a good, idea or sketch for us. Like, I'm confident in that.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, that somebody doesn't have to have just the creative idea. They have to have hands-on physical experience to be able to replicate that on the surface.
Mhm.
And so I think that means that in this call for artists, you're going to be asking for somebody with experience. Would that be right, Michaela?
Yeah, I think they need to send in like proof that they have painted an outdoor mural before, because again, this isn't a wrap where we can have something, we're going to have it printed. Like, the artist needs to know what they're doing, and we need to know that they know what they're doing.
What's the typical expectation for the life of paint in a mural?
I'm not sure. I think, like, if we were talking agreements with business owners, I think I'd feel comfortable with 5 years, because at that point, even if it's still up and everything, it's going to require a lot of touch ups, or it's going to be faded, and things may change, in 5 years. What we want to do, or the look of the city may change, and we might want to do a different mural project,
But that would be kind of again in the weeds, where the artist would be responsible for the mural for a period of time, including appropriate treatments if there was any peeling or something that doesn't seem logical, that happens to it, that they'd be responsible for that, as well as maybe there would be an ongoing maintenance stipend that could be provided to the muralists over time so that they can maintain the piece.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That could be a long-term project for an artist to say, well, I've got to go back, because I'm looking at the life cycle. It's like 10 to 20 years they could be up there, and say the building owner really likes it and really likes the fact that it draws people to his business and doesn't want to paint it over, or maybe somebody new buys the building. There's a lot of different variables that can go into that. And I think as an artist, once you've released that artwork to whoever you've done it for, that you shouldn't necessarily have to go back and try to maintain that artwork unless there's, again, like you said, some kind of stipend or some kind, and they agree to it. That's a long-term commitment, though.
Could we reach out to Spokane Art, what they have done in the past with their artists, as far as like ongoing maintenance type of thing, or like how long they expect it to remain good?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. With my limited experience, I think that it was only a year, and that was just to make sure that it survived. In other words, that it was applied appropriately. In my experience, most of the time it's up to whoever commissioned the piece to pay for maintenance. And if that means hiring the artist back, which was part of the original agreement with the murals on the viaducts, was that the city went back and paid those murals to go back and do touch up. And some of them were significant, but it wasn't like you have to come back each year. It was whenever funds were available, because it's a lot harder to come up with maintenance dollars, and maintenance isn't cheap. The other part of it was if they do get damaged by graffiti, having the ability to come back and have it repaired. And again, there'd be attempts to contact the original artist and see if they would go back and do the repair. And that was particularly true of images on the elevated highway going out of Spokane as you go down into Vinegar Flats. That was just an example besides the ones that were in the downtown area. So a lot of different elements to it, but so broader area was the suggestion. We can ask Spokane how big of an area they're drawing from when they do their solicitations. I'm going to guess it isn't limited to Spokane County, but it could be a little bit larger than that, but we can find out.
I mean, yeah, Kootenai County would be the other big one.
I'm think I've heard of before people from Coeur d'Alene, but they don't quote me on that because I'd want to know lately kind of what those processes have been, but those are all things that we can dig into a little bit more. Yeah, just looking around, there's quite a few murals besides the downtown Spokane and the Emerson Garfield, which is the area along Monroe all the way up to North Hill. North Hill has some murals as well, and so several communities in Spokane at least have kind of embraced the idea for kind of being part of the community. I would definitely think about kind of what a theme that you want for a mural and what you want to have in that solicitation. Or, you know, if you want to direct an artist to a specific concept. Or if we have more than one site, is it a series of related images, you know, that build upon each other? When you think about, I'm trying to think of an example. When you look at the signage along Country Homes Boulevard around that storm garden that they developed, each sign you come across kind of builds on concepts. It adds an element to it. That would be one way. Or, you know, if you wanted to do different artists for each piece, but a lot of different decision points for the commission here about what you'd like to have in a solicitation.
Yeah, definitely. With a bigger mural, there's a lot more that could be incorporated into it, so. So, yeah, the next big step is reaching out to businesses and
Right,
such.
community involvement. And going back to the pop-up idea real quick, what was your guys' budget when you did the one at the park, or how much did, I don't recall what you spent on that.
The pop-up art project was part of a traffic calming project
Uh-huh.
over at King Street next to Sunset Elementary and Sunset Park. And the total project, which included the traffic elements, so the cones and the barrels and candlesticks and all that, that was less than $8,000.
Okay.
I think that the artist and the materials, and this is going back a few years, but I think it was $1,300.
It was around 1,000, yeah. Somewhere in there, less than 15 for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit less than 15, but it was particularly inexpensive because we had two artists on that, and they used spray paint. They used street space spray paint specifically,
Right.
which was a relatively affordable medium to buy, and it came in obviously a range of colors for the concept. So material costs can be substantial for the murals.
Yeah.
Depending on the complexity. And I'm trying to remember if I think the one that we did on Sprague over in the East Central neighborhood, I am almost sure that they prepped the whole surface before they did a mural. I think they They cleaned it.
Mm.
They put a sealer on it, they put a base coat on, and so forth.
Yeah, like this worked when we did it for a pop-up project, but I mean it's gone now. Like that doesn't hold up at all, especially when you're driving over it.
Well, nothing's gonna hold up on a road
Yeah.
very well
Yeah.
unless you do, there's some kinds of paint that have a lot more life to them, but the other part is this road, you can see all the cracking that's on it.
Barely.
Yeah, it's called alligating. And basically the surface has deteriorated to a point where you could literally run your boot across it and you would toss rocks and asphalt. So the surface itself was never going to hold anything very well.
Yeah.
But they're
That would be true of a wall in theory.
pop-up projects are supposed to be temporary anyway. They're not meant to be permanent. So that, and I mean, and that's kind of the fun. I can think of, you know, how that would work, especially with business owners, because we're talking about engaging businesses in that idea of a mural. You know, how much fun would it be to take a little space or a vacant bit of property and come up with some little pop-up project when we're trying to get those, like you were talking, those treed areas and those expanded parking areas kind of integrated and make them more inviting for people to want to stop and you know, check them out. I think this is, the more I do research on it, the more excited I get about that as also part of it, because to me, you can plant trees, but you got it. Those trees might not make them want to stop and check out the buildings and the businesses and the neighborhood. But if you have little colorful, like we're talking with your murals, colorful places and areas to draw them in, I think it's going to help a lot. And the community engagement pieces seems to be really important in both of those approaches.
So how about this, between now and the next meeting, we'll do an outreach to the business owners in that area and see who might be interested, and we'll work on the ones that we identified in the Google drive-through. And in concept, see if they're interested in participating in a mural program, and then for the agenda for next month, we can come back and see which of those properties are, and then we can start dialing in on all the questions that were raised. And then, excuse me, the hiccups. In addition to that, we can reach out during the next month to Spokane Arts and ask these questions we've just discussed, like how much you paying a stipend, how much are murals typically costing to construct, I know what kind of agreements are you having with the property owners, you know, what area are you drawing from for artists, etc., and we'll report back all that information at the next meeting.
Okay, and we even maybe invite one of them out for a presentation to somebody from Spokane Arts to kind of describe their experiences and stuff.
We certainly can. We certainly can. To be honest with you, we've struggled a little bit with Spokane Arts getting the chance to respond to us.
Yeah.
Partly because they've had a change in leadership.
Yeah.
Melissa left. And I'm not sure they've appointed a new director yet.
I'm not sure either. They had another new person the last time I talked to them a couple months ago. So they just had a lot of change over there.
Yeah.
We can reach out and see if things have settled a little bit. So.
Yeah, if it works for them.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that was the mural idea. Were there other thoughts the group wanted to investigate or kind of expand on for purposes of downtown? Lisa had talked about an element of placemaking, maybe through pop-up. Is that pop-up art or pop-up events, Lisa?
You're muted, Lisa.
I'm sorry, thank you. Murals actually fall into that as well. There's a lot of different, there's shops, there's public art, there's raised bed planters and seating. So I guess all of the things that we've discussed can kind of fall under that same purview from what I'm seeing. So specifically, I guess I was thinking, we at farmers markets, I think I was just figuring out how we can make those storefronts, those business fronts more attractive to people who might be interested in stopping and hanging around for a while and checking out the neighborhood, which I think is the whole goal, right? It's traffic calming, and it's also revitalizing the downtown so that more people want to visit and spend money there, and those businesses can all grow and flourish. And so, I think if we can do these temporary projects where people driving by will want to stop and check it out, it's certainly a visible, the most visible part of this whole area right now. So the buildings themselves are looking pretty shabby, and I don't, and they're a little bit spread out. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's ways that we can just, even in the summertime, come up with, there's the farmer's market down by the hub that they do in the summertime, but I think the seating is a great idea. And the murals, of course, can fall under that. And then they're talking about pop-up shops where they use vacant retail locations to have entrepreneurs or artists or crafts people or games or something, some kind of activation of that area that draw people in and make them want to stay. And since this whole area is going to be changed and we're kind of inviting them in, let's give them something to invite them into or something to see while they're there.
What about an art pop-up event on a couple of days or a week in the summertime? So the idea, they've done this before in other areas, but the businesses themselves are hosts to art. And part of the solicitation is going out looking for artists to bring in pieces, and then advertising it as a weekend, summertime art walk where people get to go with addresses saying, hey, at these 5 or 7 or 10 places, there's art exhibit, and it could be an afternoon, it could be an evening event where people are invited to walk and experience the Airway Heights downtown, and art is the central focus of that experience, partnering with businesses. That might be a way to build on Lisa's idea about getting local businesses involved and thinking about how to liven up those properties by having an artist come in and do a display at multiple locations.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then
I was just going to say, we have these roundabouts, and I love the street painting thing. Wouldn't it be fun if, for maybe one day at one of those major intersections, at some point in time, in some way, we could, have some kind of street art. So when people are driving through Airway Heights, even if they're driving over and it disappears. I think there's so many great ideas. I really like the fact that we had this workshop last time, because it just fostered a lot of creative thought, I guess. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm appreciative.
Oh no. I was just going to say, building on the idea of seating the Garland area, that's called the North Hill neighborhood. They actually ran an artist competition to use specific recycled material in order to create seating. That stuff is still there today. So it's not a bench, it's a piece of art. Similarly, for the off-ramp for division into downtown, there's a lighted art piece that's there. Well, it's not seating, it's a permanent piece that's made from a brewing vat that was donated by No Lie.
Okay.
So that was the theme, like here's a piece, here's an entire industrial piece, please artists make something out of this. But that building on the idea that Lisa had brought up about, and you too, which is, seating, and, is there somebody in the community who's willing to donate materials and then have a competition to create some interesting artistic seating that could be added to this? I mean, we have Metal Fab, which is a metal manufacturing facility here, and I'm sure there are some other material oriented businesses. We have the brewery here, No Lie themselves.
They low key make all their beer here.
They make all of their beer here.
Out
So
of
they
this-
talk about their
that.
Spokane Beer Company. They literally make and store all of their beer here. So,
Yeah, in this building right here. So
Yeah.
that might be a real good community partner. So
I mean, there's lots of opportunities to, think about. Anyway, it's just an interesting way to think about, bringing in materials to create the seating or to create the planter boxes. Because by themselves, go out and buying it, maybe a little, maybe not necessarily with the niche of art, but could there be a twist on it where you're again engaging the community and artists, and you're working toward this establishment of the downtown, with these elements.
it reminds me of the Bears throughout Spokane.
Oh my goodness, yes. Does everybody remember the Bears?
Yeah, but like instead of bears, we could see if NOLI could donate like keg shells or something and make them planners, and then let local
I
artists
think
print 'em.
luminaries would be super cool. With
Something,
keg
yeah.
shells.
Keg shell seems like a kind of a good canvas,
Yeah,
and if we have NOLI,
it'd be kind of cool.
yeah,
I actually like the idea because the great thing about planters is we can plant plants in them. And so it's art, nature, and that'll again bring more color to that down area. And plants get oxygen. So we can never have too many plants, you know?
well, you put them in front of local businesses and say plant whatever you want and have fun, let them kind of own that as well. So
That's a cool idea to tie in the local businesses to kind of own it. Is here's a donation. Will you plant it and water it? Each summer season, and make it part of the downtown. And that's is a physical identifier of the downtown, since it's only limited to a certain area. And it gets to that from the downtown subway plan. One of the strategies was a sense of arrival. Was one of the major focuses of the plan. So trees by themselves don't do it, but with some other elements.
you remember the Bears?
I didn't remember because I didn't like the Bears, because I didn't think the Bears.
Whether you like them or not, you know what they are, though, right?
I saw a similar project in another community, and I'm pretty sure they used cows.
Mm, yeah.
Which seems to me could be a little bit closer, but not quite hit the mark as far as decorating something. But
Yeah.
I never got the Bears.
I was trying to. I like the keg idea because it's practical, but it also does that. But like if we could do like jets or something, but half the city would hate it. So.
Yeah, we've had mixed reactions to the idea of Air Force being a theme and for Airway Heights. Like some people are over it, I
One
guess.
side or the other, you
Yeah,
love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I love it or hate it. It's same thing with the sunset theme that we had in our logo for decades. People are that it just doesn't mean anything to people.
Nope.
And so that's the unique identity piece. I'm just looking at for anybody who wants to Google mural images. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Like we've talked about this before. The history of this area, and everybody pretty much identifies that Airway Heights is the beginning of the Great Missoula Flood territory. So that the geologic modifications as a result of the scouring. Certainly the city had its kind of formation and identity, ranging from the 30s to the 50s before being incorporated. We've seen the old photos there. Which would be kind of cool if somebody donated an old 55 Chevy or something to do something with. But yeah, there's that. And then I was just going to put up one other idea kind of building off of that, which is since we have such a diversity on our arts commission, what about visual or audio art? Some kind of video, that frames
Like-
in specifically in the downtown, the history, development, its goals, where it's going with the vision, or an audio, like a radio or recording, that could be done. Maybe it's a storytelling about downtown Airway Heights or the history of downtown Airway Heights, something like that. I'm just trying to kind of think outside the box of just visuals.
I mean, like I make film and like videos are possible, but what would where would it be at? Is this something that we would just put on YouTube as like promotion, or are you talking about projecting a video onto a wall in downtown?
My original thought was a video that would be posted on the city's website.
Okay.
Talking about the Airway Heights downtown, and a video of kind of what Airway Heights is about, where the downtown is, compiling these images and thoughts to help people frame what is the downtown, like a base to build off of for the community as an education piece. But
Yeah.
that got me thinking too about, I really like outdoor movies too. So
Well, I mean,
that would be a cool summer activity in the downtown too. Off
you
of
could,
actually
they do the movies in the park. You can
Yeah.
play it before the movie and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I was thinking into the car wash, because you have that big parking lot, so it could
Oh,
be
yeah.
like a giant
You
drive-in.
can get a projector out there.
Right?
And
There you go.
About that.
Bring back the drive-in movies in Airway Heights.
Soon.
That would be
Getting into their new location.
Who?
Some
Yokes.
That big parking lot right next to the car wash. so-
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, we haven't really talked about it, but the Yokes is gonna be moving, so we don't know what's gonna happen with that building right now.
Right, yeah.
Which could be an opportunity. So, but that's probably not gonna happen until I think, what, the summer or later at this point? Yokes
maybe
moving.
this summer. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I heard a couple of voices on the web.
I was gonna say that I like the video idea and it would be perfect to show before any summer movies or anything. But as a filmmaker, I'm gonna tell you right now, visually, we don't have enough
Mhm.
to make it look good. If we shot something or had something produced in spring or summer where they could shoot the video, the murals, maybe some of the outdoor art markets in the park, like we need more content to make a video if the video is going to be amazing.
Yeah,
So
good point.
that seems more like something that would happen over summer. Again, if we have an art market, shooting footage at the art market, shooting the murals, interviewing a couple of people. But at this point, it's just visually not good enough. Sorry, I don't want to say it like that, but that's,
No, that's absolutely right. No, that's absolutely
Doesn't
right.
exist, doesn't exist. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering too, is if we had the content. Speaking on that though, I'm great with the camera and would love to help kind of capture some of that content moving forward if we would need it. So
yeah, we even need
This
to
is one of
put
those long-term projects, I think.
like, I mean, a
I'm
video is something we could just create as actually a commission. I don't know if like that's allowed, but I don't know that we'd necessarily need outside people, because I think those of us on the team know how to create a really nice promotional artsy video, and it could be presented as from maybe the City of Airway Heights Arts Commission wants to welcome you to downtown. Check out these new projects. We've brought in this wrap and these murals, and we're excited to hear what you want to see, like something
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some traction, but we need to wait until we have some other elements under our belt in order to do the video.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, we're almost at 3:00. I was gonna see if there's anything on this topic you want us to pursue before we move on to the traffic calming pop-up projects. Okay. So we can bring this back again for next month as well for continued visioning and discussion for the group. Does that sound like a good idea? Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Mhm.
So with that, we also discussed traffic calming, pop-up projects and art as an element of that. So on our website is a story map of a project that we did under a grant from Smart Growth America, which was intended to teach us how to do these demonstration projects around slowing down vehicles, increasing opportunities for bicycling, walking, and transit. And these are several images from that. And so we have some money from a contract we have with Lime Scooter
Yeah.
that we want to invest into this. So it makes sense that since we're getting some funding to help promote non-motorized, travel through scooters and bicycles, that we invest it in measures that help some of the locations in the city be safer for bicycles and scooters. And that's wherein traffic calming comes in, is that you identify a location where there's concerns about speed and safety. You design a temporary project that you monitor and evaluate how successful it is, so that you can look at making some of these changes permanent in these locations to, again, slow traffic and increase safety. Art was definitely an element of that. And in this image that Zachary has up, we used some very specific elements. So the purpose of the mural in the roadway was a visual interest to help slow down traffic going by the elementary school and the park. It also allowed us to define the space. In other words, we used the barrels and the cones to narrow the roadway and to put in crosswalks, so it became much more apparent that this is a crossing area. And during our last meeting, we went through some examples of what intersection art looks like in other communities. It wouldn't be necessarily just limited to an intersection, but I think that some examples from other communities we saw were a crossing, from one side of the street to the other, and they created what's called an island refuge. So they created a space in the middle of the street where a pedestrian could pause, move over to the next side. I will tell you up front that I do not think that we can do a project like this on US 2 or on Hayford Road. And the dilemma is that in the current condition, particularly of US 2, that there are significant logistical issues because we cannot close the road because we're serving Fairchild.
Yeah.
And people who are traveling back and forth. And number two, it's a very large area, and I'd be concerned about the safety of people working in the project. So I think that there are other streets in the city that we could do this on, but I would say US 2 and potentially Hayford Road at this point are probably beyond our ability to ensure the safety of people working on the project.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We're putting other roundabouts in there too on some of the other, aren't we putting one on, was it 21st or? There's a couple ones that we're putting south of the highway.
Yep, we're proposing to put a roundabout at 21st and Hayford Road. We're proposing to eventually have a roundabout at 10th and Garfield when the traffic becomes increased enough. We're proposing to put a roundabout at Craig Road and 6th Avenue at some point in the future. We are going to be doing roadway construction on 6th Avenue itself. And in there, we're going to be putting roundabouts at 2 of those intersections to help decrease speed. And one of them is Lawson and 6th, and the other one might be Aspen and 6th. I'm stretching my memory for that one.
That one we had to look at.
So those are all locations off US 2 where there's a roundabout proposed. The ones on 6th Street at Lawson and let's say it's Aspen will be built between now and 2025. The one at Craig Road and 6th Avenue and the one at Garfield and 10th don't have any specific timeline, probably sometime in the next 6 years, depending on traffic. So those are some places where we do know that there's going to be some traffic calming implemented. 6th Avenue is going to have a boulevard all the way down it. And there's going to be on Craig Road and Six, both of those will have some kind of enhanced pedestrian crossing, like a pedestrian activated rectangular flash sign. So these are all things coming, where we could demonstrate kind of how it may look. The rectangular rapid flash might be a little beyond our technology pieces to try and replicate the feel of it, but
Have somebody stand out there. That's probably wouldn't work.
Interestingly enough, there's a lot of different places we could look at murals again, to increase awareness around speed. So we've had complaints, particularly along 6th Avenue speeding, and we've had complaints along 10th Avenue speeding. So those are just kind of some potential locations.
Okay.
Yeah, keep in mind that when you're driving around town, and if there's a specific hot spot, you know, that pops up, we can talk about it and kind of like look at the logistics of it, but we do have money for that. And the last one worked really well. We gathered data that we can use to go after grants to do some street improvements. So,
Okay.
and Ben and Jerry's came. It was cool. That's my screen. Yeah, we can send. Do you want to just circle back around on that, Heather, next month?
Sure.
Oh, one thing Heather didn't mention that we did that I really like to point out. When we did these plants on this project, we actually went out and instead of doing kind of traditional plantings, we did fruit plants and fruit trees. So they're all like blueberries and raspberries, and we actually handed them out to the community after the project was over. So a bunch of folks from the neighborhood left with some fruit trees. So it was a fun little piece.
Actually, that was the funnest part, I thought, for me, the creativity of thinking about how to incorporate elements that could be reutilized by our community after the event. So, we're in what it could be considered a food desert. We have a couple of grocery stores. It's somewhat difficult to access them. It will be even more so once Yokes moves down to the Kalispell Tribe property. So basically everyone who is past Hayford Road will not have a grocery store. Well, actually past Lyons won't have a grocery store, so that's only 2 blocks further to the west. The other piece is that all of the games that we used in order to create placemaking, a sense of place, for everybody in activity, those were all donated to the Parks and Recreation Center, and they reutilized those for their youth programs.
It was a fun project.
And the Connect 10, is that what it's called?
I think it's 4.
Connect 4, whatever it is. That's been an extremely popular game.
Yeah, it's if you go out to the rec center, you'll see it. It's sitting in one of the back rooms. The kids use it every day. So
It was relatively inexpensive too.
yeah. We got a really good deal on these picnic tables as well, and they were distributed after. So it was a really fun, really fruitful project, pun intended there. So anyway. All right, let me get you back to the agenda here. Matt.
Okay.
So we can bring that back for next month as well. Talk about some potential project locations.
Okay. All right, and that was item B under workshops, right? Okay, yeah. And we'll bring that back up next month. So if anybody comes up with any ideas, let's bring them back and discuss them again. Now on to commissioner reports. there any commissioners that have any reports they want to share anything about or? Not hearing any. On to staff reports. Actually, one thing on the commissioner's report, just kind of talking about like the ground painting. Liberty Lake just did a huge mural on one of their sport courts. They had an artist, so we might be able to reach out to them to see what materials they use because they were probably higher quality. They have athletes running over them all day and stuff like that. So that might be an idea. We can reach out to them and see what materials they used and such in that process. Obviously, there's no giant sport courts up here or anything, but if we were talking about painting the ground in a certain area, it could be applicable at some point, maybe. But other than that, that's all I have. Staff reports.
So the vacant Arts Commission position we already had was advertised just last week in the Community Connect newsletter. So hopefully we'll get some applicants for that for the commission. And clearly, after today's request by Chris Bovee to resign from the commission, that will open up another position. And we will report that to the city council so that they're aware that we have another vacancy. So we do push it out through the city's website, through the city's Facebook, with regards to these openings. And of course, that newsletter goes out to, I don't know, close to 5,000 email addresses. And we've had success in getting applicants through that venue. So just the update on the advertisement for Arts Commission. And I think that's it that I have an update, Zach.
Yeah, we'll now with Chris resigning, we'll do a little more robust on that. We did reach out to Spokane Arts, but I think it was just the December issue where you can't get hold of anyone at that point in time. So we'll reach out to them as well, and we'll really do a push to get some applicants for the positions. Lastly, I did speak to the wrapping company regarding the wrapping on the box. I showed 2 months ago now the proof on it. It's done, it's printed, it's sitting in their warehouse. Of course, the weather has changed, so we're waiting for an opportunity when the weather warms back up to install it. Once it gets installed, we will do a ceremonial thing. We'll make sure the Arts Commission, the City Council express that they want to come as well, and we'll kind of tie that project up. And so now we're just in Mother Nature's good graces, and it doesn't look great in the immediate, but we'll do what we can. So that's where it's at. It's sitting in a warehouse and looking to get done once we have an opportunity.
Okay. Has the DOT changed the shell then on that?
So that's what happened. We ended up waiting for like an extra 2 or 3 months because we never hear back from them. And then they're like, oh, sorry, we're not going to do it.
Oh,
so we learned that. So I went ahead and we printed it out, and we were going to try and get it in because the weather was holding up, but there was a delay in the printing. And now we're here where we have it, but we need to get a window. So
yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's really what the big delay was waiting to hear back from last time. By the time we had heard from them, the weather had turned, and here we are.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. If they're not going to change it, that simplifies it for us. I think.
It does. So. Yeah. Would have been nice to know in September though.
Yeah.
Well, we knew all summer that they were planning to do it over the summer. It's just unfortunate that when we came back at the end of the summer and said,
yeah,
you haven't changed it yet, can you give us an ETA? They said, oh, by the way, we're going to change the cabinet. So I mean, that's fine for printing and moving forward. It works. We also, when we have the open house finalized for the US2 30% design concept, we'll get a copy of that flyer over to all of you. So if you'd like to attend that meeting and look at the early concepts for the downtown area, you guys are more than welcome to attend as well.
Sounds good.
that's all we got.
Cool. And on that note, we can call this meeting adjourned at 3:13 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Be safe out there. Stay warm. Wear a hat.
Well, have a good day. Have a good week.
You guys.
Bye.
Bye.